Hello, everyone. My name is Marisa Maggio-Harelson. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and welcome to Success Stories of People with Home-Based Businesses. I was introduced to a home-based business 8 years ago from one of my dear friends who's actually on this webinar, Carrie Williams, who you're going to hear from in a little while, one of my yoga students. And she has forever changed my life. And I just want to thank you, Carrie, for that. Pretty amazing. Just talking about what's going on in the world today. There's so much uncertainty that's happening there, and families are feeling very insecure. And, none of us could have predicted what happened, 2 months ago, what was starting to happen. None of us could have predicted that. Yet there are things that we can do to protect ourselves, not just from a health standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. Where many people, the majority of the population, I would say, would be very vulnerable right now financially. And our hearts go out to those families. That's a very difficult place to be. However, if I could just say one thing to you, is I had an open mind, I guess. I was not looking for a home-based business when it basically bonked me on the head, and I saw what I was being introduced to, which dealt with health. So for me, as a yoga instructor and meditation instructor, I've always been into health and wellness. Even when I worked as a television news journalist, I had a health beat. And so when I saw compelling science with a company at the forefront of a new industry in the health and wellness sector, I had to take another look at it. So I knew that these products that I saw the science, our family was going to get on. And then I knew I was going to share with people. So I did do that. And that has shifted our family's life in a way that I never knew or even dreamed could have happened. I grew up in a family of 5 children in Lexington, Kentucky, and there was a lot of talk. I think a lot of us learn, and can tell me, in the comments, can you relate? Mindset of money can happen at a very early time. And in my lifetime as being a child, my parents argued quite a bit about lack. And so some of that stays with you, even though I've always had really great work ethic as an adult, and I've had good jobs, and I worked in TV news almost 20 years. There was always this feeling of there's never enough, but also didn't know there was any other way to change that. Just thought I was on the hamster wheel of life, spinning hours for dollars. And that's the way life was to be. And I'm happy. I've always been a happy person. I have beautiful children. They're grown at, 18 and 20. But at the time I was introduced to this 8 years ago, they were 10 and 13. And I was in a place that I was hurting in some ways. I didn't even realize I was. I had a little PR marketing job on the side after leaving TV news, working from my home, but it wasn't anything that was like really that rewarding. And so when I fell in love with this, and then I saw that there was a system for success to be a CEO of your own life and to have your own home-based business that you could actually do from anywhere in the world if you had something like this, I was all about it. And I just rolled up my sleeves and put my blinders on, and I became a very good student. And I remember Carrie Williams saying that, are you a good student and are you coachable? Because that's what it took. And it took a burning desire to want to shift something in our family's life. So I became a professional in this profession. And I learned what I needed to learn. And I locked arms with people that were smarter than me and way more successful than me so that I could learn. And I didn't listen to people that were naysayers that tried to shut down things about me dreaming bigger and living bigger for my family. So I am so blessed. And I share that with you because the world needs to know there are options out there. And there are as professional people involved in having a side hustle as there are with, anybody. It's an equal opportunity lender. So with that, I'll kind of wrap up my story. I'm just so happy I was open-minded. That's all I have to say. So thank you, Carrie Williams. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marco and Diane Rodriguez. I'll go with Diane first. I know that Marco was driving to his office. He is an occupational therapist. Both of them are. They work very hard, and they have children, grown children. They have they have grandchildren as well, and they work a lot. And a couple of years ago, they were introduced to a home-based business, an opportunity. And because of their background in the healthcare profession, and because they saw the science, they had to take a serious look. So Diane, I'll start with you. Why? Why are you doing this today? And why do you think people need to look at this?
Well, thank you. Hi, my name is Diane Rodriguez. I'm an occupational therapist. I've worked with mostly pediatrics for over the last 20 plus years. I've done everything from home health to school districts, outpatient rehab. And then when I met Marco and we kind of joined, he's an occupational therapist as well, we kind of joined our business together, and we had a really strong mission about how we wanted to help people and how we wanted to do that in a special way that really cared for the families as well as the kids that were our patients. So we decided to open up our own business, and Marco's going to talk a little bit about some of the struggles that we went through as in a traditional business. But just as you had alluded to, we were working massive amounts of hours. We felt like we were really struggling with this because we had to learn, being healthcare professionals, how to run a medical office. And we really didn't have any idea of how challenging it was going to be. So when this opportunity was presented to us, I mean, we didn't want to leave our, sell or, get rid of or close down our traditional business. We were really in a position where we were so grateful that someone cared enough to share this with us, because we needed that plan B. We needed, with the traditional business, it wasn't going in the same manner and the time frame that we had hoped to have the life that we wanted to live, the plans that we had for our future. We weren't getting any younger. We had children, grandchildren, the things we wanted to do for them. So it was truly a blessing. When we looked at the opportunity, we looked at the industry, and we looked at something that we could really, really get behind. It went along with what we were doing in healthcare already. I knew I wanted to continue to help people. And when I saw that I was able to do this and have the best of both worlds, it was truly a blessing. So I just want to share a quick story about how making this decision, choosing to say yes to this opportunity, had a very impactful meaning in my life last year. My father had contracted a very rare autoimmune disease that basically kind of destroyed his cardiovascular system over the last few years. So last year he had gone into the hospital again, had a very complicated procedure, and when he was going to be released from the hospital after being there about a month, the care for him was going to be too much for my mother to do by herself. So although I live the furthest away, I do have 5 other adult siblings, but because of their traditional jobs and having young children, I was the only one that was in a position to be able to go and stay with my father and help out my mother for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. I was there for a total, at the end of his life, I was able to stay there for a total of 5 weeks. And I was able to stay abreast of my business, stay involved, stay working, stay connected with just my laptop and my phone. I was able to go be with my father, help my mom when she needed me most, not have to worry about rushing back, not worrying about losing a job or losing income. I was able to do that, and I will always, always, always cherish that time I had with my father at the end of his life. So that is one of the things I will, that comes from my heart about why we're so glad we said yes to this opportunity. Otherwise, I would have never been able to do that. So I'll turn it back to Marco so he can give you some of his thoughts on how what he looks at when looking at a business like this as well.
Thank you, Marco, and thank you, Diane. And you guys are in Texas, so just wanted to...
Thank Marissa. First of all, thank you, Marissa, for the opportunity to be on this panel. I mean, it really is an honor. And, I call Diane my first Corinthians 13 girl, and once you really get to know her, you understand her heart. She really, truly is just one of the most incredible people that I've ever met. So I now only have a few minutes, so I'm going to just kind of really just touch on just a few things that really caught my attention about starting this initially as a side hustle, and then it's really grown into becoming our plan A. So as you mentioned, Diane and I are both occupational therapists by education. And before becoming entrepreneurs, we had regular jobs. Diane worked for the school district. I worked for one of the local hospitals. And, to be honest, I loved my job. I was very good at it. But what I didn't like was the lack of freedom. I didn't like the idea that someone else was telling me what to do, what time to get up in the morning, what time that I could take a lunch break, what time I could go home, if and when I could take a vacation. And someone else was always determining what I was worth. And it was usually significantly less than what I thought I was worth. So in 2010, Diane and I decided to start our own private practice, thinking that running a traditional business was going to give us more time, more money, and less stress, right? And, we've been very blessed, and we've built one of the largest clinics of its kind in the country. But in many respects, running a traditional business was like jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. Overhead issues, doing work and not getting paid for it. Just a lot of just got to a point where it was ridiculous. So a couple of years ago, Diane and I decided to start a second company, but we wanted it to be different this time. We wanted flexibility to work from home, or really to work from anywhere in the world. So after looking at lots of different opportunities, we found a system that we believed was the best fit for us. And the reason why we decided to go with this business venture was because when looking at a business, there's 4 criteria that every successful business has in common. For example, first is a unique product or service. And we didn't want to compete with a bunch of other companies that had similar products, and we're trying to convince other people that our product is better than their product. And no. So we found a company that had products that were exclusive, award-winning, triple patented for the next 20 years. So there's really no competition. I like that. The second thing we look at is timing. So if we were here talking about typewriters or flip phones, no one's really going to get all excited about that, right? But we found a company that is right at the verge of critical mass. And critical mass is that massive growth and expansion that many companies go through. It usually lasts 10 to 20 years. So for us, getting in ahead of the wave was really important. The third criteria is income potential. Diane and I were therapists. We're already high income earners with our profession, and we have plenty of hobbies. So when looking at a different business opportunity, unlimited growth potential was a significant part of it, and we know we found the right one. And the fourth criteria is a system. Diane and I were looking for a business that had a training system, much like a franchise. First you do A, then you B, etc. And Diane and I are extremely coachable. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been successful over the past 2 years. So that's really all that I have. I know that I'm really excited to hear some of the other panelists as well. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to share. And with that, I will turn it back over to you.
Well, Marco, I love that you're sharing this, because I think those elements are critically important when people are looking at it. And most people would say, well, they're occupational therapists. They don't need a plan B, which is now a plan A for you. But in this time of uncertainty, how is having this home-based business been very effective for you all, since you're probably having limited access to patients?
Right. So, it's kind of a strange thing, because we are an essential business. We have not been mandated to close down. We even had the compliance officers come out and take a look at our business. So we're still open. But, and I understand we have a lot of parents that are very concerned about, what's going on right now. So we've lost about half of our patient load. So I had to lay off probably about 70% of my staff. And we're just kind of running it with a skeleton crew. So we are surviving. But off of our traditional business, the clinic. But I'm so grateful that we started this plan B. You hear the old saying, dig the well before you need the water. So I am so glad that 2 years ago we began digging, and we have been digging and digging fast, because not really knowing that this was going to happen. But I'm so glad we did that. And like you, I'm so grateful for Carrie Williams. She's really just been phenomenal, and she's been a great coach to us. So I'm really grateful for her, and you as well. I mean, we've learned so much from you, and again, the opportunity to even be here and share our story is awesome. Thank you.
Well, I think that people are the best part of this profession as well. So thank you, Marco and Diane, because of this, I know you, and that's so awesome. All right, we're going to go up to Canada with my dear friend Melanie Wakeland, who she's a mom, and she's got grown children. She has a daughter living with her as well. She is an entrepreneur. She's been involved in several different businesses, and right now she's working from home. And Melanie has just I love your spirit. I've been able to travel with you to many places and come see you in your beautiful country of Canada. And that's also a bonus as well, is getting to travel. And we will be traveling again. But Melanie, just share a little bit about, thank you so much for being on the panel today, and just share a little bit from your heart why you think this is something that people really do need to take a look at.
Hi, Marisa. Thank you for having me on, and I'm happy to be representing Canada here today. So I thought a little bit about this, and I joined a home-based business 5 years ago, but before that, I had done some different traditional businesses. And I thought back to some of the times in my life where, even though we had owned some other businesses, the flexibility wasn't there. For example, a few days after my second son was born, my husband had to go away for almost 2 months. And he was working away, and we were doing that so that I could stay home with the kids, because we always thought that was important when they were small. But, you know, as they got bigger and as things progressed, there was some times, I remember one time I was in a grocery store, and my oldest son, I had 3 children in just over 3 years. So when I take them to the grocery store, it was like herding cats. And I remember my oldest son, I'm trying to hold on to him, and he runs up to this man that I don't know, and he hugs his leg and he says, "Daddy." Because my husband had been working away, trying to support our family for a long time. And it just broke my heart, because here we thought we were doing what was best to be able to provide and to be able to, you know, to raise our family at home and to offer security. But our kids missed out on their dad for a lot of their younger life. And so when I saw this opportunity to know that I was able to be at home, that you could do this from anywhere, that you could create what we're creating right now is a pandemic relief fund. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't qualify for any of the government things because we have built a business that's bringing in income. And I think that's what we all need to do right now is, you know, create our own pandemic relief fund, so that, you know, God forbid, if something is to happen, you do not qualify for government assistance. So in this time of seeing what is happening, it seems crazy to me that 2 months ago, you know, we were just living an entirely different life. I drove to town today for the first time. I live outside of Edmonton, Alberta, so fairly rurally, and I'm able to do a business, you know, just the same as if I lived in a big center like you, Marisa, out of Phoenix. But that is what I love about this is being able to access it, do it from anywhere, and with anyone.
And the relationships that you build. That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. And I think so many of us can relate to that, Melanie, you know, being home with our kids. And then of course you're thinking that your husband's doing the right thing for all of you. And there, you know, we don't get time back. And that's the thing. We don't get our time back, and time is happening now. And what's happening in the world right now is critically important that people find a way to take charge now, right? Thank you. And with that, I'm going to go to Carrie Williams. Thank you, Melanie, so much for sharing that. Because it was when I overheard a conversation from another yoga teacher who was speaking about some incredible things about her health improving that I was just blown away, and I overheard the conversation. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she pointed to Carrie, my 5:30 a.m. Monday morning student, and the rest is history. But as I learned about this woman, by the way, who is a mom of 2 beautiful young boys, Luke, I think, is 10 now. Is that right? 9 or 10. And yeah, so oh my gosh, they're just amazing children, and her husband Todd, and it's just been a joy to get to know him. But I loved the choices she had in life, and that's what I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing to be able to have those types of choices? Carrie is a horse lover. She's an incredible mom. She's an incredible professional in this industry, and one of the top in the profession. So I honor you and I thank you. And what's a girl like you doing in, a home-based business?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Marisa. I've just loved hearing everybody's stories. So thank you so much for putting this together. Such an honor to be here. I was actually introduced to this business almost 10 years ago. I had been a retail manager. In fact, that was my degree in college. I was a retail manager for 13 years. And truly, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. My husband's an attorney. He did commercial litigation, and he was working just as much. And I don't know if anybody out there feels this way, but I truly felt like we were ships passing in the night. I had a 4-year-old and I had literally a newborn baby. He was a couple days old when my friend shared this with me. But I was just at that point where something had to give. And I felt like if I didn't make a change the next 10 years, we're not going to be much different than the last 10 years. And with my background being retail, my husband, he had a job that paid well, but they owned him, and that was never going to change. How do you stop being an attorney? And I was looking for flexibility. So my friend shared this with me. The health benefits just blew me away. I'm into health and prevention, but I was absolutely open to looking at this business. Like I said, my son was 3 days old, and Mel, your story with your husband really hit home for me, because that same story had happened with me. We had an in-home daycare provider, and she was amazing, super blessed to have her with my first son, but her kids were there as well. And I remember picking my son up one day, and he called the sitter mom. And that's hard, really, really hard when we're each, working super hard to do our best for the kids. And I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. So then I have the baby, and that night when we're in the hospital, you guys, my husband got a call from his boss, and my husband had earned his vacation time. And his boss said, you need to submit your hours so we can bill the clients, and you need to do this tonight, even though we'd had the baby that night. And he had to leave the hospital, go home, work through the night, not for a deadline, but just so they could turn their time in to get paid. And truly, Marisa, that's when it hit me, and I said, some way, somehow, I'm getting us out of this. And it was just such a blessing that my really good friend shared this with me 3 days later. So I saw the potential. I saw that this business model that blew me away. I was not familiar with that. Both my parents were college professors, so I was taught to go to school and get a good education. And I'm grateful for my education, and I'm grateful for my work ethic. But I remember being out of school in the management program at a department store and working 70 hours a week, and I was making $24,000 a year. And I remember saying to my dad, so you work the whole rest of your life for 2 weeks off a year? And he said, welcome to the real world, Carrie. And so when I saw this, I remember just saying to my husband, babe, I found a better way. This is it. Because if I believe in something, I naturally share it. Just like, Marissa's my yoga instructor. I've shared hot yoga with people for so many years. So I saw truly the flexibility that this could create. I saw a way to create a radically different life that I didn't know existed, and just a way to own your life, a way to impact more lives than you ever possibly could, one by one. I saw a way to lock arms with other like-minded people and just go make a massive difference and help others have freedom and just choices so they could pursue a life of their dreams as well. So I got pretty fired up about it very quickly.
And yes, you did. Is it for everybody, Carrie?
No, it truly isn't. In fact, my husband doesn't do my business. He was able to retire 27 months after I started this, but it's not. And that's okay. I just believe just share it with everyone and see what interests them. It has to be something that's the right fit that resonates with you. But I always say, take a good look, right? Take a look so that way you can decide if this is for you. Gather the information before making a decision, right?
And the person you become. Can you
Ah.
talk a little bit about that?
I can't even tell you. I couldn't even have done this Facebook interview. I get nervous on that as it is, but I'm so not the public speaker. Marisa knows that. But the personal growth journey along the way, it is just truly incredible. And it's always a journey. We're learning and growing, but where, are you just encouraged and mentored and led to grow your skills, to grow yourself and the person that you can become, and really just encouraged, and the people that you surround yourself with, it's unbelievable. They say you become the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. So choose wisely, right? So who has what you want, who exhibits those traits, and learn from all kinds of people.
Well, thank you. I've learned tremendously from you, as well as many people on this call today. So I know you have another call that you need to get to, a coaching call. And that's another thing, is there's so many wonderful things that are available for us to help us grow as people, and just being more human in the humankind world. So thanks everybody for joining us today. And get back to the person that shared this call with you. If you're thinking about something in your life, if you're thinking of making a change, don't settle for just what is given to you. You can take charge of your own life. And so at least have a conversation with somebody that you respect and talk to them about this and find out if it's for you. So thanks everybody. Appreciate you all.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Okay, take care. Bye.